You guys did really awesome on your benchmark, by the way. Tomorrow, I'm going to put up on the video, I'm going to include who was in basic, who was in mastery. It's incredible how many people made it up to mastery this time around. Keep up the good work. Keep studying that homework, and you'll only get better from here. Today, we're going way further back in history, starting with the first people. And those people were hunter-gatherers, and we're going to see how they developed into agricultural societies. First, we have three vocabulary words. The first one is the word nomadic. If somebody's nomadic, that means that they move around a lot. Usually people were nomadic to find food, but sometimes people are nomadic for other reasons. Think about the hobos that we studied during the Great Depression. What were they nomadic for? Exactly, they were trying to find jobs, so they had to move around to do that. Some people are still nomadic today. The second word is the word society, and a society is an organization of people. We're going to see how societies developed from the first small groups of people into cities and eventually into larger civilizations. The last one is the word domesticate, and domesticate means control animals to use them for human purposes. So that's going to be like using dogs for hunting, using cows for their milk. We're going to see all kinds of other ways that things were domesticated. So the first people lived in what was called the Stone Age, aka the Paleolithic Age. And the Stone Age was called that because people only used stone tools. They didn't have any metal, they didn't have any plastic. So all the tools that they used, like knives and bow and arrows and spears and all that stuff, it was all made out of stone. That's why it's called the Stone Age. Back then, people were hunter-gatherers, which means that to get food, they either hunted or they gathered stuff like berries from a bush and ate that. And they were nomadic because as they were hunting, they would kill off all the animals in one area, or they would eat all the berries in one area, and then there wouldn't be any more food in that place, so they have to go somewhere else to find some food. So here you go. Here's some hunters and some gatherers. These guys a little bit whack looking. I don't even know what kind of animal this is, but they were hunting it so they could get the food. These people over here were gathering berries. That's what you see right there. That's what they're pouring out. So these two groups, you would have some people who would gather berries, some people who would hunt, and then together, hopefully, they would have enough food to feed their family and their group of people. Hunter-gatherers generally lived in very small groups. Usually families would live together and they would travel around as a family. But if they got into too big of a group, then there wouldn't be enough food in an area, so they would have to split off. Hunter-gatherers lived in houses that looked generally like this. They would always be near water, but whatever house they lived in had to be easily constructed, easily something that they could pick up and move, or that they could just build in a new place because they had to move around so much, so they needed houses that could move around with them. Hunter-gatherers also often lived in caves. That's where the idea of cavemen comes from. This one is a little bit later of a picture. You can see one of our vocabulary words going on here. Exactly, domestication. So people who are living in caves, right, they can move around from cave to cave in order to find food. Sometimes they would fish in the river, but you'll notice that they need to be near water in order to drink, in order to live. A lot of the paintings that people find in caves will show animals because these people relied totally on animals for food, for materials like bones and furs and stuff, in order for them to survive. If you want to see some really cool cave paintings that people discovered in a cave in Lascaux, France, check out that link right there. So as people were hunter-gatherers, they started to realize that there is a better way of getting food, and that is through agriculture. So what they did was they would plant crops, and that didn't necessarily mean more food for them, nor was it necessarily easier, but what it was they knew that they were going to have food because they were going to be able to eat those crops that they controlled. So sometimes hunter-gatherers, they would walk around and they would go one day without finding anything to hunt, 2 days, 3 days, and they would get really hungry, and sometimes they would even die because they didn't have enough food. Whereas if you were a farmer, you knew you were going to have food because you planted your food. And these farmers, they domesticated animals to use them to help them farm and to make it easier and easier for them. So those were like the domestication of animals really helped with the development of agriculture because it allowed people to use what's called the plow. And the plow is going to dig into the dirt so that you can plant seeds in it. Here's a picture of a plow used in ancient Egypt like 5,000 years ago. If you want to see what a plow looked like when there were the colonies in the United States, there you can go to that link right there. It's pretty cool. It'll show you how they used to plow back in the day. Now we just use machines to do it. Another one is irrigation, and irrigation made it so water could get to crops. So here's irrigation here. You got this lake over here, a river, and they dug a canal like this so that the water can get into their crops where they're growing them here. You can see they're growing crops here because this guy's got a plow. So that was one of those huge advancements. What agriculture really did was it made it so instead of living in small groups, now you could have tons and tons of people living together because they're all farming and they all have a dependable food source. They'll all be able to have food. And so now you start developing cities and towns and societies and civilizations. So the Brain Pop video explains all this, but even better than I did. So please watch that and then see if you can answer these questions that are going here. Remember, the username for Brain Pop is Southampton and the password is Brain Pop. Don't tell anyone I stole it, but I did. The link is bit.ly/DTA agriculture. These questions are going to be up next. All right, tomorrow we are going to be studying ancient civilizations. So you're going to see like ancient China, ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, all those things you remember from 6th grade. Those are coming up next.